Jack Slash is like, now kiss. Detonation.
Jack Slash just starts writing fanfic. That's a big problem.
Yeah. Welcome to Inchworm,
the podcast in which we're inching through Worm. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ted.
We read, what is it, Interlude 11C by now?
Yes, another anniversary bonus.
Yay!
Which means, all it means is the chapter was released on a day when Worm was not normally released.
Yes.
So this is now 3 days in a row.
Wow. I mean, I assume he didn't, write them each in one day, but still, he's just writing so much so fast. It's just really impressive.
I assume he wrote them each in one day.
Really? That's incredible to me.
Yeah.
I guess maybe he did. I don't know. If this were my writing schedule, I would try to get very far ahead. But I guess you might, burn through your backlog, as we do with podcasting.
Yeah. I also think, part of the magic of it was, having the deadline is what got him to start writing. So I think...
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's just having the bandwidth to be like, okay, now I'll have a deadline, every day for a bit.
Yeah.
See how that goes.
I'm curious, was he working a full-time job at this point?
I don't know enough Wildbow lore.
We need some Wildbow lore.
I know he was at university when he started Worm.
Oh, okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised if by a year into the story he was out of school.
Right, okay. But maybe he wasn't working full time. Maybe his schedule was a little erratic. I don't know. I would be very interested to know because, I can't imagine writing this much a day while working full time.
Yeah.
Even without working another job, it's incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this interlude, loved it. What a great fake out.
Yes.
Not Spitfire's interlude, Elle's interlude.
Yes.
Labyrinth. Yeah, and really enjoyed seeing it. Really enjoyed seeing, I will say, a more sympathetic take on a member of the Slaughterhouse Nine. It's not a very sympathetic take, but it's much more sympathetic than what we got last chapter.
Yeah. It's sort of tragic.
Yes, definitely tragic. Elle is not very sympathetic. I feel like it's hard to gauge how much sympathy we should be giving.
Mimi deserves.
But yeah, really fun. Please tell us what happened in it.
Remind you and tell the listeners what happened. So as you already revealed, we start out following Spitfire in combat. Spitfire and the rest of Fault Line's crew are fighting off Burnscar. And Elle is reflecting, there are kind of two types of opponents when you are a conscientious pyrokinetic. There are the people who are vulnerable to fire, who you can pretty much lethally burn to a crisp. And then there are the people who are in armor or made of metal or otherwise totally invulnerable to your fire powers. And I guess Spitfire has complained a little bit about this kind of being an annoying drawback of being a pyrokinetic. Burnscar does not seem to have any inhibitions when it comes to who is a valid target of fire. So Burnscar, she has a red dress. She doesn't wear shoes. As she walks, she leaves burning footprints in her wake. She's got brown hair and green eyes and dark circles under her eyes. And she has stylized cigarette burns from her eyes down to her jaw. Basically, in addition to being a pyrokinetic, she can kind of summon and then cause fire to sort of flare up. She can also teleport from fire that she is touching to any fire in the immediate vicinity. So as she fights, creates more fire, she gets more and more ability to kind of instantly step from one side of the battlefield to the other in a way that seems very difficult for Fault Line's crew to deal with. We get several pages of Fault Line's crew being on the back foot. It seems like Burnscar is targeting Spitfire, and Gregor, Neuter, Fault Line, and Shamrock are all trying to back her up. Spitfire, at least, has a fireproof suit, so she's not taking that much damage, but the other ones do seem to be getting more and more injured. Even Shamrock's getting hit. Gregor has sort of a slime that is a fire retardant and, seems to be trying to coat himself in it so he doesn't get burned that badly. It's unclear how much it's helping. We do finally realize that we're getting this kind of bird's eye view of what's happening. We're not in Spitfire's head. In fact, Elle is up on the second story of Palanquin. So this battle is happening right outside Fault Line's nightclub. And Elle is looking down and able to see Burnscar as soon as she teleports through the fire, and is kind of banging on the windows trying to direct the rest of her crew to, not get blindsided. But they're not able to hear her. Elle admits Fault Line's crew aren't just her friends, they are her family, and she's feeling really helpless to save them. It turns out today was one of her good days, which means that she was going out for a walk. She was talking to Fault Line. She had just come back to Palanquin, and the way her power works is she affects the area around her the longer she stays in one place. So like when she's within her domain, that's fine. But if she leaves her domain, then her power kind of has to start all over again. And in addition, on the good days, her power sort of grows in size at a much slower rate, and her ability to specifically force objects, to manifest in a certain way is just a lot more limited. It's harder for her to find and connect and put pieces together. Whereas on a bad day, when her power is very strong, she can kind of improvise as she is, manifesting things into the world. And she thinks what she is doing is working with pocket worlds. Mm-hmm. These realities that are kind of blank canvases for her conscious and unconscious mind to work with. Lucid dreams that can swallow her up and that she can project out into the world and onto other people. She has a few different realities that she draws from. The one we saw earlier this arc is called the High Temple. It's actually the place that she feels best about. She associates it with her own personal triumphs, her inner strengths. It's not as influenced by her negativity. And it's something that she's worked on, like with a therapist, with Fault Line. It's like a new creation of hers. There are other worlds: the lonely hallways, the burning towers, the barren ruins, and the bad place, which was her first world, the one associated with the asylum where she had been kept. The barren ruins ends up being the place that she draws from now. It's kind of her first world, besides the bad place, that was nice until she sort of had some of that negativity creep in. So it's kind of like beautiful grass and old castles and stone things, but everything's kind of decayed, fallen apart, and kind of beautiful in a new way. But the landscape is full of traps and pitfalls and dangers. She is seeking out something in this world, and her power kind of explores this territory to try and find a statue of a woman holding an urn. And then she starts to project that out, right? The floor under her feet turns to stone, grass and moss grows in, and under the window, this statue starts to grow out of the brickwork, but agonizingly slowly. As the statue is getting pushed out, things really take a turn for the worse. Gregor and Fault Line are both basically down, unclear how badly injured or burned they are. Labyrinth has the statue emerge, and she's trying to come up with a mechanism to trigger something. And she ends up finding a math puzzle with a rolling ball that kind of can, be shunted in different directions. She's going to use to trigger something about the statue, but it gets broken in the fighting. So she realizes her only chance is to get Shamrock to help her out with a little bit of luck to get the mechanism to trigger. So she ends up breaking the glass and, cutting her hand and shouting, Shamrock, the ball has to go to the right Shamrock's like, what? But does get a glimpse of the ball tumbling through the mechanism, and apparently her power is she's a telekinetic and a clairvoyant, so she could, but only at a very small scale, so she just makes micro adjustments to things to get what she wants. And of course, the ball triggers the mechanism in the statue thanks to Shamrock's power, and water begins pouring out of the statue, its broken arm and the urn that it is holding. And the water immediately makes the battlefield much harder to traverse for Burnscar, and she flees, chasing after Spitfire. Shamrock goes after them too. Elle is saying, no, don't go, because she knows that Burnscar is leading them away and then is going to double back, because Burnscar is not actually here for Spitfire. She's here for Labyrinth. So while Faultline's crew is wounded, down for the count, or drawn away, Burnscar makes her way into Palanquin and comes up to Labyrinth's room and says, hello, old friend. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that Burnscar was an asylum mate of Labyrinth's, and they had a really interesting, intense, and pretty one-sided relationship while they were there. Burnscar, whose real name is Mimi, comes in and is kind of like, I'm sorry. I wasn't planning to hurt your friends as badly as I did. And, I can tell you're mad at me, right? This whole time, Labyrinth doesn't want to provoke Burnscar, but it's really easy for Burnscar to read the negative emotions on her face. And as Burnscar is making these excuses, Elle is constantly thinking, yeah, you just don't try hard enough. I'm not buying these excuses. And apparently Burnscar is just here because she wants to talk. She doesn't mention anything about recruitment. She's just kind of like, I knew you were in town, and I wanted to take a chance to come and see you. I just remember our times together in the asylum fondly. And as Burnscar's talking about that, Elle realizes that she's no longer projecting the barren ruins into existence. She's projecting the bad place, which is a heightened, awful, twisted version of the actual asylum that she was in. So it has, small windows, barred doors, but also it's dirty and grimy with needles and razor blades everywhere. The environment starts to change around them, but Burnscar doesn't notice right away. We learn that Burnscar escaped at the same time that Elle did from the asylum, which Elle didn't know. And she apparently tried to not use her power for a while, but got into a bad situation with a guy who was bothering her. And she says, I burned him to scare him, then I burned him to hurt him, and for payback over his hounding me, and then I couldn't really stop myself. I burned him to death. She explains that, according to the doctors, when she uses her power, it adjusts, the chemicals in her brain. So she has less empathy, worse impulse control, her emotions disappear, and then she just can't help using her power. And it kind of snowballs. Whenever she's near fire, it leads her down this path. She got recruited to the Slaughterhouse Nine after that, and now there's a kill order out on her, so she can't leave the Slaughterhouse Nine. And besides, they're going to be able to find her. Apparently, their newest member, who has replaced Hatchetface, can find people, and she thinks even if she went to the birdcage, Siberian would get in and kill her. And Elle's like, I don't know, you just shouldn't hurt people. And she's like, well, I don't know, it's not so bad, because when I use my power, I don't care that I'm hurting people. She finally is like, no, I heard that you can make beautiful places now, Labyrinth, and I wanted to see that. And then she turns around and she realizes that they're in the bad place, and that this is not even intentional on Elle's part. It's just that she's bringing back these bad memories just by being here. Burnscar's kind of like, oh, well, I thought we were friends. And Elle is clearly thinking to herself, no, we were not friends at all. And Burnscar also realizes that and is hurt by it, decides to leave. And Elle gives Burnscar a hug on the way out the door, lies that they had some good times, and Burnscar goes. Elle sinks to the floor and thinks, it's going to be weeks before I'm going to be able to recover from going back to this really dark mental place. But the chapter ends on a note of her thinking, I can get better, but Burnscar, there's no helping that girl.
Yeah, really different from our last 2 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every encounter of these 3 with the Slaughterhouse Nine has been really different, like one from the other. Really impressively so. It's the kind of thing that could get redundant, like people are being recruited.
Yeah.
But it really hasn't so far. I mean, bitch is the only real recruitment we've seen, actually.
Yeah. And it's nice, we get both fun cape combat in this chapter, which we haven't had, and then this beautiful character vignette.
Yeah.
That is it's not plotty at all. It's just 2 characters that we really have not gotten much. Like, Labyrinth has been intriguing as a character, but is almost more intriguing as kind of like a collection of powers mystery. And so it's so nice to get inside her head and get to know her better and introduce this relationship from her past with Burnscar. It's really good stuff.
Really fascinating seeing them talk. There were things about it that reminded me of the conversation between Jack Slash and Theo, but
oh, for sure,
very, very different. I mean, certainly less antagonistic, less change happened over the course of it, but still there were some significant developments.
Right. And the through line has been our quote-unquote recruits, our targets, maybe is a more accurate term, have all been very aware of the need to sort of placate or manage these unstable Slaughterhouse Nine members.
And they've all been in a one-on-one conversation with them, if you don't count Aster, who can't talk.
Right.
And had to, figure out how to handle that conversation, how to get out of it.
Right. And it's like all 3 have been sort of cartoonishly evil. Right. Burnscar is maybe has a more human side than the other 2 we've seen so far. But definitely those conversations feel really charged in a way that is really relatable to just like having difficult conversations with people you don't like, people you think might be dangerous, right? Like it's there's a certain psychological realism that's relatable to having to talk, or it's sort of the having to talk to like an abusive parent, like with Theo, right? Like the sort of like, oh, if I say the wrong thing, he's going to get angry.
Elle's moment where the narration said, it took a bit of courage. She hugged Burnscar and said, we did have some good times. Reminded me so much of the moment when Theo like summoned all his courage and then said like, people like you, I'll kill.
Yeah.
I'd kill.
Oh, yeah.
Just because both of the moments took courage and both of them were untrue to a certain extent. Like, Theo doesn't quite believe in that vision of himself. And Labyrinth is giving a false vision of the past.
This isn't the point, but isn't it gendered, right? Like, because I was kind of making a big deal out of Theo's masculinity here, but here, Labyrinth is pushed into this moment of, like, care, right? She's doing sort of emotional labor to support Burnscar. Yeah. I assume it's sort of motivated by, like, well, she's the kind of person who might throw a fireball behind her if she leaves in a huff, and so I'm gonna, I
mean, it did not feel to me like Elle was afraid of Burnscar to that extent.
Well, then I'll ask you. I wanted to ask you, why do you think she does that? Is it kindness? Is it
because like
sorrow?
I don't think that she thinks like if she walks out of here like this right now, she could just burn me, because the thing that Burnscar says to her while leaving is like, I'm glad you're doing well. I hope I didn't mess everything up by being here. And it doesn't, like, it is possible, I guess, that she would go out and, like, go find Elle's friends again and burn them. But, like, Elle didn't think that was it. Like, Elle never thought about that. So maybe she's afraid of that. But it felt more to me like some combination of, like, guilt and, like, I have to give her something maybe to hold on to. Like, sort of a last ditch. Like, this probably won't actually help her, but maybe this will make a difference to her.
Yeah.
Because she was already leaving. She was already expressing friendly feelings.
Yeah.
I don't know that she needed to do it for safety. It did feel more like she was hoping for something.
Yeah,
I mean, she doesn't seem very hopeful for, but
I do kind of agree with you that I there's not a lot in the text to support the idea that it is, self-preservation or to save her friends or whatever. But just the way Burnscar's attitude. Well, so like what she's here for is to make a connection, right? It almost reminded me in a weird way of Flechette, the sort of like, I'm new in town and I gotta find a friend. You know, like I'm gonna go look up my friend. And the way Burnscar gets so emotional around the like, but you're my friend, you're my friend, right? Like this is like I have something. And I think Elle, even though she does not like Burnscar, does perceive what's at stake here for Burnscar is she leaves this room knowing that the only connection that she believed that she had to a world outside the Slaughterhouse Nine is a lie.
Yeah.
Right. And she reads it on Elle's face twice throughout the conversation. We get Burnscar asking her something, Elle not saying anything, but sort of thinking something negative, and then Burnscar going like, fuck, you know, like, like reading between the lines, it's like she's seeing what she is doing. And then when she sees the bad place come in, she realizes. And so as she's leaving, it's like, what does she have left? What is she going to do next? And so I feel like what Labyrinth is offering, and especially in this, like, she walks up behind her so Burnscar can't see in her face that she's lying.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then it's like, okay, I'm giving her a little bit of a lie.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, we had some good times. Like, something to cling to.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it's just that she sees that she needs it and like, or doesn't... Yeah. Or just doesn't like the idea of Burnscar being out there without a lie to hold on to. Because it's like she ends the chapter by thinking there is no helping her, despite having just tried.
I think both those things are possible. Like, I think you could sort of make a last-ditch effort because you want to help someone, and after they go, they're like, I mean, I can't really do anything. Like, she is certainly at this point unable to do anything.
Yeah.
And she probably does feel the burden of like, if only I could have been a friend, but there's nothing I can actually do at this point.
Yeah, and I also certainly relate to like just sort of, you know, politeness taking over, or like just like, yeah, okay, see you around, even though you're thinking, I never want to see you again. Right?
Yeah, no, definitely, like leaving like a blind date and being like, we should definitely do this again.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Right. Exactly. It feels a little bit like that.
So Burnscar, I feel like I almost believe like all the things. Like, I sort of believe what she's saying, that she can't help it. I believe Labyrinth that like, okay, well maybe she could do something if she tried. But like, I also feel like Labyrinth thinking about her, like, well, she just doesn't try hard enough. She takes refuge in this mindset where she's just burning and kind of happy-go-lucky because then she doesn't have to face the guilt. Sort of a parallel to what we were talking about with Bitch, if Bitch does join the Slaughterhouse Nine, it will be because she hurt Taylor, not because Taylor hurt her.
Yeah.
And so Labyrinth is thinking all these things, and I'm like on the one hand, Labyrinth is like probably to some extent right. Like the mechanism where Burnscar is hiding in this sort of fire-loving, giddy self because she doesn't want to think about the guilt. Like, that feels really real. Like, I feel like Labyrinth is seeing that accurately. But also it feels really ableist from Labyrinth.
Oh, yeah.
Like this, like, okay, well, you could overcome your mental health problems if you tried. Which is, like, so interesting from someone who has very serious mental health challenges of her own and has talked about pulling herself out of them. And I think there's probably an element of, well, she's overcome her challenges to some extent, or at least, like, learned healthy coping mechanisms, so she thinks other people should be able to. She has maybe some internalized ableism towards herself, and she feels like she should be able to overcome her challenges more than she does, and she's turning that on Burnscar. But it does just feel deeply ironic that, like, a character who should know that these challenges can be real is like, okay, but you just don't try that hard and are taking the lazy, like, psychologically easy way out.
But it's also what's at stake for her, right, is given the setting, the height nature of the setting, there is possibly some there as to like, well, how much are the powers taking away Cape's free will?
Oh, right, because of course Labyrinth doesn't want to believe that it's involuntary for Burnscar because that's scary for her.
Exactly.
Because maybe then she won't be able to overcome everything herself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she is trying so hard. She's trying so hard to get better.
She's like, this has set me back like weeks, but I know I can get back.
Just for her own sake, believing in the sort of like, oh, well, you just can't help it, right? You just go to the bad place sometimes. You just can't help it. Right,
that would be a really dangerous story for her.
Yeah.
Especially because, both their powers certainly hurt themselves, but Labyrinth means, like, kind of getting lost in her head and affecting the environment around her. But, like, Burnscar's is, like, killing people. Like, Burnscar's is much more dangerous to other people, is my read on it. Like, Elle is incredibly powerful, but, like, not necessarily deadly in most cases.
Right. So, what I was getting out of this chapter, and I don't know how one for one this is, but I feel like both of their powers are really interesting takes on depression, whereas I feel like Labyrinth is sort of almost like a catatonic depressive, like she totally withdraws. And Burnscar feels like more like an alcoholic depressive in the way that her power as like a substance that she can retreat into and be like, well, it's not me, it's my power, and
my power affects my mind. And if I'm near fire, I can't help but use my power. And then
right. I think there's some, I don't want to make a simple one-on-one comparison because it's not, but I feel like the thing that really speaks to me though is that they both have this, they feel badly about themselves, and both of those experiences feel to me relatable in terms of my struggles with depression and kind of, and like, but the point that you were making about how like Burnscar hurts other people and Labyrinth is mostly hurting herself, though I guess she can occasionally manifest.
The bad place could hurt the bad place too,
right? But she's there too, right?
Yeah. It is fascinating how these are two of the more powerful capes. Like, what was Labyrinth? Like a shaker 12?
Absurdly high.
And Burnscar was incredibly powerful. Can burn everything and teleport through fire. Yeah. Amazing.
Right. And similar to Lung, right? She just gets stronger the more on fire everything is. Right. Like, she just gets better and better.
Yeah. And so I don't think we've seen a correlation between strength of power and mental health challenges or disability, maybe. Yeah. We haven't seen a correlation between ability and disability when it comes to power, but it does feel notable that these are two of the more powerful capes we've seen in action.
And I was also thinking, right, the way that Labyrinth talks about how, like, depending on her own ebb and flow of good days and bad days, that her power can be, like, easier or harder to use. And again, thinking about, like, Taylor's power, like, her power comes with perfect control. And, like, what a gift that is.
But on her mentally bad days, she has more power.
No, that is true.
Yeah.
That is
true. That is a little bit what we've seen.
You're right.
But it doesn't have the disability component in any way that we've seen so far.
Right.
It does kind of make me wonder, we're back to shoes dropping, like, is there another shoe that's going to drop?
Yeah. And we have had that sort of, like, her powers buzzing around her edges. I did notice, right, so, and we're kind of zipping all over the place, but there was a line here where Elle is like, well, yeah, it's not like I have to use my power. Wherever I am, I'm always using my power. Like, her power is just always affecting the area that she is in to some extent. And I was like, that is so fascinating, because it's, again, like, with Lisa's power too, right? It's like, oh, her power's kind of always there and she has to shut it out, right? With Taylor, it's always there, you have to shut it out, which is, I love this as kind of like a default, the way Wildbow has constructed it. Because I think if you think about, people with powers, it's just like, they're just normal people and they have these tools that they use. Yeah. But then when we get into the Cape's heads, it's always like, I am dealing with sensory overload. I'm dealing with this thing that is so hard to control. And it looks on the outside, like I'm a person who has these tools at my disposal. But really what it is I'm, trying to swim and constantly figure out exactly how to make this all work.
I think I said this before, but it does feel notable that whatever is conferring the powers doesn't seem very keyed into what humans need to survive and be, like, quote unquote normal in the world.
Yeah.
And thinking about Taylor's power, like, she did end up in the hospital, like, I guess I think it was just the hospital, like the psych ward for a week with the sensory overload. And maybe that's the cost of her power, but now she's kind of figured out how to deal with it, and so it's like the kind of disability that doesn't affect her everyday life. Like, yeah. But her power isn't as strong as Labyrinth's, so her corresponding... Like, and I'm sort of positing these corresponding disabilities, but like, I don't know that we've seen that. It's just like a pattern that feels like it's just starting to emerge.
Yeah. It is certainly, right, like, it feels so much more interesting on a narrative level that the powers all have trade-offs instead of it being like, oh, just like some people are better.
We do have people
who are better.
At a certain point, like, yeah, some worlds powers have trade-offs. In this, you kind of pay the cost up front with your trigger event. But like, it seems like that's not the whole story.
Yeah.
And if you get a group like the Slaughterhouse Nine, where it seems like they are all to some degree psychopathic, to whatever extent that has like an actual definition, but like antisocial, certainly amoral, destructive. Are they also all incredibly unusually powerful, even among capes? And is part of the cost of their power the thing that Burnscar was talking about, where she's like, I lose empathy, I lose impulse control? Do they all have some kind of mechanism like that working? Because
interesting.
It's possible that they would all just be this kind of person anyway, but then they happen to have gotten powers. It's possible that they would have been fairly normal people, but having a power at their disposal, they were already the kind of person who would abuse that power.
Right.
But it's also really possible that getting this level of power messed them up.
Right.
Like
that's a really fun... It'll be really interesting if we get any true origin stories for the people we've met or future people coming up to kind of answer that question of like, what were they like before? Was it a dramatic transformation, a slow fall from grace? Were they always like this?
Right. They definitely could have been. I wonder if Sophia was.
Interesting.
Like, she has proven herself to be a terrible person. Like, was she always? Or is it something her power did to her?
Yeah.
I also wonder about, we know from what Lisa said, we think we know that the Endbringers were never human, but if there's some sort of corresponding, like, they have the most power of anyone, ? Scion, who knows?
Yeah.
But did they lose their, I guess it wouldn't be humanity, but like, do they behave the way they did because of something that their powers do to them?
Yeah. No,
is Scion disconnected from humanity in the sort of manic fly around the world all the time way that he is because of his power?
Yeah.
Was he human? Would love to know.
That is all very, very interesting. It does remind me of the first interlude line that I've brought up a couple times recently of people are flawed at their cores, right? Mm-hmm. I doubt we will ever see a character where it's like, they were a good person and then they triggered and then they were a bad person. Or vice versa. Or, I don't think it's going to be quite that simple. But I do feel like it's very thematic to think about these superpowers being on kind of a sliding scale of humanity to capability and the different ways that can be twisted, read as a personality disorder, read as a disability, right? There are a lot of different ways that it comes up.
Well, now I'm thinking about Emma, who we don't know that she has a power. I guess she might not. I still want to believe that she has a power. But if she did get a power, I had been kind of thinking like, oh, she went through something traumatic and that was a trigger event and it also changed the way she thought. But if she went through something traumatic that was a trigger event and gave her a power, that power could change the way she thinks, such that she doesn't want to be friends with a person like Taylor. She is interested in being friends with a person like Sophia. Yeah. Because she lost her empathy. She lost,
Right. Well, I do, just to double down on the point I was making, right? We did just get like Bitch's origin story, right? Yeah. And we see how traumatic her childhood was, all of the neglect and the ways that
her power certainly changed her mind, but she also never got to experience a normal human relationship.
Quote unquote feral child. She was prone to violence. Yep. She had violence inflicted upon her. She had trouble communicating and keeping human relationships. She related to the wild dog that she found, more than she related to other people. And so there's a continuity there and not a transformation, despite the fact that despite, not to deny that her mental state is dramatically different post-triggering.
But now I'm wondering if I have the causality wrong, because if you trigger due to trauma, if people all have this, like, you know, a flaw at their core, and I think that's true, I think we all have lots of flaws at our core, then possibly triggering, like getting your powers, is just a magnification of that flaw in a way that somehow becomes useful. I don't think I quite have it, but yeah, if bitch already had this difficulty communicating with other humans, her power exaggerated that.
Yeah.
And gave her the ability to read dog body language and the ability to grow dogs into monsters. And if Taylor had, like, reached some limit of experiencing all of the horrible, tiny little things that people had been doing to her at school over this past year and a half, and that was sort of her sensory overload, and then that magnified, and now she can sense, like, literal bugs.
Yeah.
Which are sort of, you know, the metaphorical version of what she'd been experiencing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is just stating the thing that we knew from the start, that, like, these traumatic, extreme events lead to powers, but...
I love the way you said that. That view of it is so much more satisfying to me from an analytical point and, like, as a reader, and just, like whatever sort of the... Who knows if we'll get into sort of, like, the truth Cosmic, about superpowers or whatever, but interpreting it as something that is core to the character rather than put onto them by the superpower is just much more, like, interesting to me to think about and explore. And to tie it back to this chapter, right, that view of it validates Elle's view of Burnscar, where it's like Burnscar's saying, oh, this power happened to me and I'm just going to retreat into it and I can't help myself, right? And maybe that is the effect that her power has on her now, but maybe that is drawing on some part of her personality that existed before she triggered, right? Yeah. And that is sort of something, right?
Is it the flaw at our core that gives us our power?
Right. Yeah. And so that is very interesting, and it will be fun to think about for different characters as we get to know more, more and more about their powers.
Mm-hmm. You could say the disability that comes with Lisa's power, I don't know if this is really an apt use of that term, but like that she can't be happily ignorant about the truth about any of the people around her. And maybe her burden before she got her power was being too aware of the truth of the bad things about the people around her.
Okay.
And now she can't hide from it. And I mean, it's not a disability the way Labyrinth is, but it is sort of it's a burden to bear the way Taylor's sensory overload is.
Yeah.
I just figured out what Gru's power means also. Okay. He neutralizes people. He takes them out. Like, he removes their ability to function, to do things. And he does it in this sort of cold way that mirrors the way he felt when he was fighting that man in his mother's apartment.
Yeah.
And I guess his, like, flaw, if you want to call it that, maybe was that he sort of is aware of that ability and maybe prone to use it. Like, I am stronger, I am tougher than the people around me, I am trained in this, I can just shut people down if they're doing things that I don't like. And that sort of coldness that comes with that. And now he can just shut it down totally. He can just blanket a room in darkness and keep people from doing anything that he might not want them to do.
And of course, he's not actually keeping them from functioning. He's just keeping them from being aware enough, right? Like he's not, like, freezing everyone in place. True. He's not stopping time, right? But it has a similar effect. That is a very interesting analysis. I like that.
But anyway, we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for powers as psychic metaphors all day. I did want to return to this topic of, like, how bad is Mimi?
Yeah.
And I do have a little bit of skepticism of, like, Elle's black and white view. Yeah. And there's even, like, a little bit in the opening of the chapter where she's like, well, there are two kinds of people. There are people who you can burn with fire and people who you can't.
And it's people you can burn with fire, but you can't really because you're not amoral.
Yeah. And then there's two types of pyrokinetics, people who don't care who they burn and people who do, right? So I do wonder if there's a little bit of black and white thinking there. But then I just want to read this bit from the battle earlier. In a moment, Burnscar was beside Spitfire, clutching the girl's throat with her fingertips, pushing her down against the ground that was still burning with traces of the fireball's heat. And, like, that's what she comes in is immediately like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hurt them. And it's like, this is not, you're right, like, she's not that in the, like, I don't know, it's very, very hard for me to look at what she's doing in the battle and buy into her kind of like, oh, you know what I get like.
I don't doubt that it's true in some sense. Like, she didn't show up here to hurt them. She didn't have like some grand plan that was like, I'll go to Labyrinth's house and kill all her friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I believe that she's correct about the thing where, like, using her power reduces her empathy and reduces her impulse control. Yeah. But she does sort of enter into it, and maybe there is some choice there.
It did just occur to me that, like, if Spitfire shot first, she might feel self-righteous about, like, well, I didn't put the fire on the field, but once there was fire, I just had to make it all burn.
That's interesting.
It's kind of
did she show up and say, like, take me to Labyrinth? And Spitfire's like, yeah, I mean, no.
And that could explain why she's targeting Spitfire. I do want to say, I think we sort of said this, Burnscar's power is very cool.
Yeah,
and, like, I like her whole vibe. Like, her look is, like, very gothic or, like, vampire-y, like... She's barefoot in a red dress, just kind of like wandering around.
The cigarette burns.
That is an interesting thing.
Can she control whether or not fire burns her?
Who knows?
Yeah, she has them, I guess, I don't remember if you described it in detail, but she has them on her face.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, can she turn her power off temporarily?
That is a really fascinating question.
Maybe there's a dampener on the Slaughterhouse Nine.
Yeah.
It's funny the way she talks about, like, well, I can't leave the Slaughterhouse Nine. She's like, it's easier for me to just be the version of myself that they want me to be, that, like, fits in with them. And she says, like, there's a kill order on me, so if I walked away, I would get caught and killed. And also, they would want to kill me, and, like, there are some members who would definitely be able to track me down.
Yeah.
Even, like, if I tried to go to the birdcage, like, I think some of them could even get in.
Yeah, but there again, I'm like, that feels like...
It feels like a justification.
It feels... Exactly.
Like, a thing she's built up in her mind.
Because I don't know that Siberian could or would go into the birdcage, because, like...
Why would she care?
Like, as far... I mean, we don't exactly know. It's possible that Dragon would not try to capture Siberian for some reason. But I completely agree with your read here, that this feels like she's built up a justification.
It's that thing from, it's from War and Peace, but from Natasha Pierre in The Great Comet of 1812, where Anatole is, like, repeating the arguments that he is, like, built up for himself, that she's really attached to, like, in the way that small-minded people are for things they've worked out for themselves.
Yes, exactly.
She has worked this out, and she's clinging to it, and she needs to keep repeating it to herself.
Yeah, and it's similar to the idea that, like, she looks back on her time at the asylum and is like, well, but maybe Elle actually liked me, right? It's like another little thing that she can cling to. It's like, no, she probably actually liked me.
I think she thought that Elle did like her then. Like, that I actually... Because Elle thinks, like, they used me as, like, an inducement to get you to behave.
Yeah.
So she probably did think Elle liked her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. But
yeah.
What I was just thinking is that it is clear that she is not trying as hard as she can to keep from killing people.
And the other power analog I was just thinking of again is Regent, right? We sort of like Regent's power is much more messed up than Burnscar's in a way that I don't know that I could particularly pinpoint, but like but
less violent, less final.
We know that he was not using it, and part of the interesting thing about him was he was kind of like, but I guess everybody's okay with me using it, and like this seems justified in this case, and then it's like, and he is getting off on it in his chapter, but he sort of is like struggling with
I'm really worried about him.
Right, the rationalization of it, whereas like Burnscar is not even like struggling, right? She's just like, oh, I was good for a little bit, but then I relapsed, and now that I'm deep in it again, I'm not relating to that. Maybe this is a preview of Regent's future. I don't know.
I hope not. I don't know. I mean, he was just so opaque. Like, he didn't really think about the moral quandary of it much at all. But yeah, Burnscar could be trying. Clearly has just stopped trying.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think Labyrinth is correct to think, like, you don't try hard enough. I mean, because it seems like she's not trying at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the right thing to do would be in Burnscar's situation, because it seems like the asylum was really terrible.
Yeah.
Elle agrees with that. Like,
yeah.
It's not like staying there would be a good thing. If she leaves the Slaughterhouse Nine, like, there probably is a good chance she will be killed. I don't feel like it's okay for me to sit here and be like, well, she should get herself killed to avoid killing other people. I do think there's an argument there, but, like, I don't think that that's like that's a hard one to really get behind. Of like, well, this character should just let herself be killed.
I also, given like Jack Slash, who we just met, I'm now realizing Burnscar has been with the Slaughterhouse Nine for a while.
Yeah.
And so whatever she was before that recruitment, I'm sure she is worse now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So there is an interesting, like...
And she's trying to present the best version of herself to Labyrinth. That's not even a very good version.
Right, so I think maybe being fair to Mimi is like, Elle didn't have a good opinion of her. She always had a seed of something like this in her, but definitely she's worse because of being recruited and just having to function alongside the Slaughterhouse Nine for some amount of time. So that is interesting.
Imagine what it would do to bitch.
Yeah, no, exactly. Or like anyone, right? Like, And it's sort of, again, like if you're unlucky enough to be targeted, it's sort of like you don't have a lot of good options.
Yeah. Do the people who don't pass the tests and don't make it to the final, like, to be the one recruited, do they live?
Yeah. I also just loved the moment when Burnscar looks around and realizes that they're in the bad place all of a sudden. Just the horror of knowing in such a concrete way how much this person who you hoped was your friend doesn't like you is like, what a gut punch, right? Even though she's so unsympathetic, this idea of like, but you were really my friend, right? And then she's like, oh, and like, you don't even have to answer because I can see me being here has been such a
imposing your inner mental state on the entire world. Like, wow. Talk about the mortifying ordeal of being known.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right, yeah. And I guess it's interesting that Labyrinth doesn't experience any of that mortification in this chapter, but yeah.
So also another thing, we see Labyrinth being incredibly attached to Faultline's crew.
I know,
like, she
her
thinks of them as family.
And
fortunately, it seems like none of them were killed, but she doesn't know that for sure. And imagine, like, Burnscar is in a similar position of, like, she didn't have anyone, probably. Now she has the Slaughterhouse Nine, which is probably not, like, a comfortable group to belong to. Certainly a different vibe from Faultline's crew. But, like, also, I was just thinking about it, like, if you leave aside what they're all about, like, the mechanism, how it's, like, kind of a cool secret society, right? Like, you're in this group of 9, and, like, anytime someone leaves or, well, dies probably, you're like, okay, we each get to find someone we think is cool, and then we'll test them to see who the coolest one is. Yeah. And then that person gets to join our secret special group where we're all cool and free together. Like, really compelling.
Yeah.
I could definitely imagine a slightly less evil version of them, like that being a great novel.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that, the degree to which they seem to be evil, maybe a little too much, but too much to make for enjoyable reading.
Yeah. And it's another thing that makes Elle a foil to Taylor, or like it's revisiting this theme of like she needs her people, right? Like she needs friends, she needs connections. Right. Elle is someone who's found that and is desperate to keep it, and Burnscar is someone who doesn't have it or has like the worst.
Has like the worst version of it. It's much worse than Taylor ending up with the Undersiders.
Yes. Yeah. One metaphor that I loved in this chapter is Elle's position behind the window, right? So she's kind of like stuck in place by virtue of her power. But we don't just get a chapter where Elle sits in a room and watches stuff and has a conversation. We get one moment, right? Well, she's using her power to get the statue, to pour the water. And, you know, we get these beats of her being behind the glass, right? Like, it's calling back to the asylum. She's sort of, like, trapped in a place. She's separate from people, right? Her mental state. It's really hard for her to connect to people. So here she is off in her own room. She's separate from her group. And then when the stakes are she needs to reach out and make a connection so that her family doesn't die, she breaks the glass and is willing to get her hands all cut up and bloody to shout out to Shamrock and save the day.
Yeah.
And I love, and it's again Taylor like the willingness to hurt herself in order to make this connection and make sure that the mission is a success.
Yeah.
I really liked that.
I'm really happy for Elle and the distance she's come. And the connection she has, Fault Line's crew seems really awesome.
I know.
Gregor was great when we were in his head. Clearly, Neuter is awesome.
Yeah.
Spitfire we haven't seen as much of, but we know that she's the one who supports Elle the most. Fault Line is super cool. They're just a really great group. We don't know Shamrock to the same extent, but no reason to think she's trouble or anything.
She's got a lot of swagger.
Oh yeah, she's great. It's just really wonderful that she has that group.
I know. And
I hope they are okay.
I was thinking, right, so it's a little bit sad to me. I was like, yay, Fault Line's crew, and Gregor is here, but again, and we saw him in the last arc and stuff, but he's backbench, right? I loved his interlude, but we don't get any character development for him or even for Fault Line in this chapter. And it's really a vignette. It's a really tight focus on Elle.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit sad as a fan of the character, but taking a step back, I was like, oh, this is actually really smart on Wildbow's part. He is, I think, correct to avoid narrative sprawl, right? As much as we love Fault Line's crew, they just don't have the same place in the narrative that the Undersiders do.
They're kind of stable-ish. Yeah. There's not a ton of flux. They work as a crew.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But so I want to check in with all these characters again, right? And you're right. Yeah, we don't need to. But I think it's also I feel like the way A Song of Ice and Fire is constructed and the way George R. R. Martin writes himself out of difficult situations is he's I'll just it doesn't really make sense that the Ironborn and the Dornish are kind of non-players. So what if I had 10 new point of view characters and then I've really committed to following an arc for each of those characters. And so I can't just have one chapter. You probably need a minimum of 3 chapters for an arc. And I was wait, how many chapters do I have to write to finish this book?
Yeah. So this is the interlude version. It seems much more effective than that.
Right.
Where we
right.
really do just check in for, I don't know if we'll ever get a repeat interlude. Who knows? Maybe we will. But we don't have to have an arc. We're just getting this little glimpse.
Yeah, and it's it's on the one hand, again, not spoiling whether we do get more from Gregor. It's just it does hurt a little bit because I'm so attached to not get even a little crumb of development here. But I think it's for the best, and all the stuff we do get is great.
One thing, a little random, but I noticed in this chapter, we just saw the merchant fight where Fault Line's crew was so cool and so competent. Mm-hmm. And Labyrinth in particular transformed the whole place. Love what we know about the temple now. That is so good.
It turns out it was a temple to Labyrinth.
I guess Taylor that's true. Called it. I guess that's true. And here we see one single cape absolutely trouncing them.
Yeah.
And you could argue that, Burnscar is, incredibly powerful, one of the most we've seen. But I also just love how it's not there's an absolute ranking of, oh, this power is stronger than this power, so therefore it beats it. It's they weren't as well prepared. Having a plan and, knowing what you're going in there to do. Yeah. Having time to prepare, huge advantage. We've seen that with the Undersiders, just, a really big thing. Also, different powers are just more effective against each other. Fault Line's crew is not going to be particularly effective against Burnscar because, they don't really have anyone who can stop fire. Right. And also, capes have stronger and weaker days. We just saw Purity unable to stop Jack Slash. Yeah. And now we're seeing Labyrinth on one of her weaker power days, and she just can't do what she did before. And she's just not in a position to do it because she went for a walk.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me also, I'm so glad you brought this up. It reminds me of Arc 4. This is Fault Line's crew's Arc 4, where they get attacked when one of their important players is unable to use their power, right? Yes. So the Undersiders get cornered without bitch.
They aren't in a good
Here they don't have Labyrinth.
Yeah.
It's ironic, of course, that it's just because Labyrinth's having a bad day. She just went for a walk, right? It's also that...
Well, she's having a good day.
Burnscar is a one-woman heavy hitter with, like, battlefield control.
Yeah.
And, like, Labyrinth is Fault Line Crew's equivalent for battlefield control.
Yeah,
the same way when Gru gets tagged by Clockblocker, they're just stuck. And then as soon as he comes out, they can run away. I mean, like, they had to wait for him anyway because they didn't want to leave him behind. But, like, what he can do with his darkness, similar to what Burnscar does with fire or what Labyrinth does with her manifestations. Mm-hmm. And so...
I was going to say when he goes unconscious in the fight against Purity.
Oh, same thing. Purity's people. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's a team dynamics thing as well as a sort of, you know, offense is easier than defense, you know, getting surprised is always bad, right?
Yeah, it is. That is interesting to think about, like, the different roles. Like, we've talked about the Undersiders with regard to, like, their roles in a 5-man band or whatever, but like the types of powers that you need to comprise an effective gang.
Yeah.
And someone with battlefield control.
Right. Yeah, and because we've talked about like the concept of a heavy hitter, I think most of all. But
yes.
Did you have any other thoughts about Labyrinth's power? Like stuff that we learned about it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so cool. The pocket dimension thing. So she's basically a daydreamer. She can imagine anything and then make that landscape, that vision, a reality. Yeah. And she says, you know, she can do it, like, just spur of the moment with anything, but it's much, much, much easier with worlds that she's already built.
Yeah, I love that they're stable places that she goes to. And she even describes using her power as, like, it's almost like she's flying a little drone or, like, a camera around a physical place, right? She's like searching the landscape to find a statue. And she's like, she actually has to explore her imagination. I really like that. Or like a lucid dream is kind of, the comparison that she made.
It does remind me a little bit of being a writer and building these worlds. And like once you've written a whole novel's worth about characters, like, you know them so well. You know everything about their relationship, their interactions.
Yeah.
Like
you could write anything. But...
Right. And of course, you can start with a blank page and build something, but like that takes so much more work and you have to kind of build it up, get it to click and all of that. So even though theoretically as a writer, you have the capability to do that. And also, I write so much fan fiction, and that is such a big advantage to writing in a fan fiction world.
You have the pocket world.
You have canon, you have like whatever, you have these characters already built in this sort of pocket world and you can just shape it however you want around them.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think that must be a little bit how Wildbow felt going into writing Worm, because he'd been writing in this world for so long, playing with different points of view, it sounded like, playing with different storylines. Like he knows this world.
Yeah.
He's already built it up. But it's so sad for Labyrinth that she can't daydream without getting fully lost in it and without imposing her daydream on the world, like almost involuntarily if she's having a bad day.
I know. Oh my God. I do want to just talk about the places, right? You mentioned the temple, very cool. Mm-hmm. There are these ruins with traps and stuff, which just like reminds me of like the landscape of Dark Souls or like a video game. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like classic, like fallen fantasy world full of traps. It's amazing. But then she mentions the burning towers and then the lonely hallways. And are you familiar with the concept of the back rooms?
No.
This is like a meme, but now going to be a horror movie. Also sort of like a found footage aesthetic. But this idea of like in a building like a shopping mall where we were just a few chapters ago, right? Mm-hmm. Or, you know, an airport or these big public places, that there are these like back rooms that if you're like staff, you use to get from one place to another really quickly. And so the back rooms as a place is like a place you can get lost in. Like if you're in a big corporate building and you stumble into the back rooms and there's no way out. And, you know, maybe there's something there that's hunting you, right?
I mean, it's just making me think of Us.
And so, but there's like a whole found footage aesthetic and a sort of like slightly surreal, fluorescent, blank walls and winding corridors type of things. And as soon as Labyrinth said this, I was like, oh my God, Labyrinth has built the back rooms. Like it's her. And, you know, that the meme that exists online is, you know, she is responsible, right? Like Elle, somehow Elle's back rooms, you know, she sent somebody there and they've been reporting back.
I love that she worked with a hypnotist.
I know.
And with Fault Line. Like, Fault Line seems like such a wonderful leader.
Yeah.
I'm sad she doesn't like Lisa, because she seems so cool, so...
Yeah, it can't be too easy. Can't just be every character is cool and they all hang out.
Guess that would be a shorter story. But yeah, the fact that they've like really worked as a crew to give her this positive visualization. And I love that we've seen several instances now of like a supergroup that has a member that's really struggling and they're putting a lot of resources into.
Yeah.
And that's the Travelers with, what's her name in the vault?
Noelle. Yeah.
I guess she's no Elle, though.
Love that. That's very funny.
I mean, is that significant? Because, like, good heavens.
Okay, well, so if it's Elle and Noelle, then, like, which one is no Gregor, which one is no Neuter, right? Like, can you figure out, is there a mapping? Does the theory hold water?
What if Elle and Noelle are, like, matter and antimatter?
I love it.
What if they've been, like, split from each other? Or if they're united, that will end the world? I don't know why that would do that, but...
I love it. I love it. Jack Slash is like, now kiss. Detonation.
Jack Slash just starts writing fanfic. It's a big problem.
Yeah. It's his name.
They've both been in captivity because they're too dangerous. Noelle is still there. I don't know what's up with Noelle's like need or whatever.
Oh, that does remind me, I wanted to just spell out another thing I love about Labyrinth's power is that it requires her to stay still to be functional, which is like, it's so sad for somebody whose trauma is like being confined to a mental institution.
Oh, that's so true.
Right, so it's like...
Well, that's not even the trauma that started her trauma, presumably. But yes.
But right. But this idea that like... for a while, her power was only projecting the bad place over the asylum, right? Which is just like a slightly altered version of that world.
God, she must have made that asylum horrible for people.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we're trying to run like a good mental hospital. Sorry about the needles and the jagged blades coming out of the wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want them to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. only when she's having her bad days. But just the idea that what she wants, what would be good for her is what she did today, which is, I went for a walk, right?
Yeah,
but that means she's useless, right? So like, it's what Lisa was saying about how your power kind of like takes you back to the source of your trauma, right? Like just literally how it works. She has to stay in one place and go off into her own little world in order to help her team.
I wonder if her trauma was being in the mental hospital.
Yeah, could be.
Because, like, I was thinking, like, she had a trigger event, then she couldn't, like, control her effect over the landscape, and so they put her into the hospital. But maybe they put her into the hospital for, like, some mental health reasons, and it was so terrible that it triggered her. Yeah, I mean, I sort of see her as she was really depressed. Yeah. And maybe escaping into a fantasy world or something. And then she was put away. Yeah. Hers is I wouldn't be surprised if she triggered after. Hers is like a different version of the dissociation. It's like I said, Sophia's power is sort of seems to be reflecting dissociation. Yeah. But Elle's is in a different way. I also thought the way that I read this is... It's not that, like, the statue's urn is full of water, but, like, the statue is, like, part of a fountain or something. Yeah. So that, like, it's like she's created this pocket world that actually has water in it. Right. And she's created, like... The water is pouring out of one place into another in a way that is, like... For some reason, that is even more impressive than the other stuff that she has done. She's like, I can't affect the street over there, but I can affect this building, so I can put a statue with water, but what's the mechanism to get the water out of the statue into the street? Right. Okay, I need this, like, math puzzle thing. Right, is like holding water. Right. It can flow through from her pocket dimension. Like, it's so clever. And the water is real, but, like, somehow if she touches your head, you can, like, see through it. Or, like, you can exist in the real world instead of her world. It's kind of weird. Right. Yeah. That's right. We should talk a little bit about Shamrock's power. Oh, yeah! Yeah, it's not... Just, it sounds like, that Shamrock is lucky, although that could actually be part of it. But yeah, she says, a telekinetic and clairvoyant on the smallest of scales, capable of making small changes and knowing how to use them to make big things happen. So I guess that does sort of describe what luck does, but it's not like she just is lucky. is that she has the ability to, like, bump the dice and give herself...
Right. Well,
like,
it feels a lot like Tattletale's power, where it's like, oh, she just knows things. But Tattletale's constantly, like, thinking and asking questions.
Yeah, you have to do so much
Shamrock
work
is probably super
like
focused, being like, oh, I see it, and I'm just going to, brush stuff out of the way using my telekinesis.
And it's also so cool that Elle has so much control over the landscape that, like, she can feel those little shifts that Shamrock is making.
Yeah. Oh, I loved that.
Also, really funny, Shamrock's power is almost a manifestation of the effect that Jack Slash wants to have. Of, like, these tiny little... just taking one person out. Like, what's the ripple effect?
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Letting Theo become a hero. What's the ripple effect?
Yeah.
And Shamrock can actually kind of sense that ripple effect and know what little changes to make to create the effect she wants.
Yeah, so true. And I mean, it also fits in with, like, a power like Coil's, too, right? This idea that he gets to...
Makes a little change.
He gets to make a little change.
And
he gets to see the consequences before he commits, right? It's a very fun...
Oh, man. Now I want to see, like, Shamrock with Coil's power also. I want to add the powers up. I want to Voltron them.
Oh, like working together or like fighting each other?
No, like working together, but like they're actually one being with both powers.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, dare I say, OP, but that could be very cool to be able to Voltron powers together.
Like, Coil's already OP. Come on.
Yeah. And I guess, right, he sort of has Voltroned Dinah into his organization.
Yeah.
Without having to
be a literal Voltron. Shamrock's power.
Yeah. So yeah, what does she need? That's all Coil has to answer.
But I feel like what he needs is to have it inside of himself, the power,
right?
So that he can
know exactly what lever.
Exactly, to push, to change the two versions of reality. As far as we know, once you have powers, that's it.
Yeah.
We've talked about it a little bit with, like, second trigger events. Like, the potion wouldn't have had any... Potion, whatever. The
cylinder,
powers drink.
vial.
Wouldn't have had any effect on Scrub, who'd already presented.
Yeah. The difference between Coil and Shamrock is Shamrock's power is useful in a fight. Coil's power is useful more strategically, right?
Yeah,
so that is, of course, why they would be
strategy
very complementary.
And tactics,
right. Coil isn't any better than a normal person at, like, dodging bullets the way Shamrock is.
Right. It's just that he can have a universe where he didn't come near the bullets at all. And he can make it just go away. But It's a very blunt power with the only two. And, like, Shamrock can make all these little tiny adjustments.
Right. We talked briefly about this little crumb we get about the Slaughterhouse Nine, that Hatchetface is, in fact, no longer in the picture.
Yeah.
And there was a new, for us to learn anything about, member of the Slaughterhouse Nine.
Be really good at tracking down.
Right.
Burnscar. Yeah.
A woman who can find people.
Worrisome. So, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
I do think we have more interludes. I don't think we were done with the list. And I do kind of assume we're going to go through either all 8 or 7 of them. And then the 8th will approach Skitter in the first chapter of the next arc. So I don't know if we have 7 or 8 interludes. But it's been fascinating because we've only had one attempted recruitment that we saw. I mean, I guess Only was kind of off screen. Yeah, so if all of them are out doing this work tonight, I kind of feel like they're all aiming in different directions. I want one of them to break into Colin's prison.
Interesting.
Well, I'm just kind of thinking, like, what are the groups? Like I said, like, maybe one of them will approach Panacea.
Yeah.
Like, the Undersiders are split up enough right now that I think they can approach multiple Undersiders, but I don't think, like, another member of the Slaughterhouse Nine is about to approach Faultline's crew.
Okay.
I guess it could be one of Purity's followers. I do think probably one of them's going to approach one of Hookwolf's crew. Possibly Hookwolf, possibly one of his followers.
Okay, yeah.
Like we said, Hookwolf is kind of already leading a group, but, like, maybe he wants to be part of the cool super group, you know?
Yeah.
Bigger pond, smaller fish, yeah.
Okay, so then, for the people that you're thinking of, I don't know if you want to try and actually put them in order or whatever, but I would be curious if you want to mix and match a little bit, because what do we know about the remaining members of the Slaughterhouse Nine? There are only 4 left that we know about but haven't seen, right?
Right.
There's Crawler, there's Mannequin, there's Shatterbird, and there's Bonesaw.
Hatchetface is gone, so there's some other one.
And there's some other one that all we know is that she's new and she can find people. So I'm wondering if you want to pair up those Slaughterhouse Nine members with those other people?
Yeah, let's try it. Then I would expect the new one to go after Taylor and to do it last.
Okay.
I feel like Bonesaw would go after Panacea.
Okay. What's your thinking?
Just because of the body modification, doctoring angle.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
So we have Mannequin and Shatterbird that leaves. No, there's another one.
Crawler.
And Crawler. There are 3 of them because I paired the unknown one with Taylor. I think, just assuming there'll be some similarity, I guess there's no reason to think that. I think that Shatterbird will go after Cricket because they both kind of maybe have some sort of projection of sound power.
Cool.
Maybe, sure.
Yeah, that rhymes. I love that.
So that's Crawler and Mannequin left. Who else did I propose? Neither of them seems like a really good match for Colin. But I really want to see Colin again, and I want Dragon, of course, to watch this happen.
I mean, I love the idea. I love the idea of a break-in. That's a really fun.
Yeah, so let's...
so do you remember anything about either Mannequin or Crawler? Like, if you don't remember anything about them...
Mannequin's the one who has, like, the chains in his arms? Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. Maybe that's sort of a... Is he a tinker?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, he's gonna go after Colin.
Okay. So where are you sending Crawler?
Did I have anyone left?
You didn't. Of the categories you've mentioned, I don't remember exactly what you predicted last episode, but, like...
Crawler could go after Gru, sort of a secret darkness corners kind of, hidden
love that
situation.
Love that.
3 Undersiders really feels like a lot, but I don't remember. Oh, I guess there's like Night and Fog and Crusader. Crawler could go after Night.
Mm-hmm.
That could be fun.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Good predictions. Well, Interlude 11D, not a bonus. It's been 2 days, so we're back on the regular schedule. But this is the 4th day straight. But it's still more of an
interlude than we'd expect, yeah.
There was a faint tapping sound, a clink.
On Colin's window.
Ooh, scary!
I mean, it could be any of them, but I feel like Mannequin would be clinky, so...
I love this.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this. I can't wait for you to turn the page and find out how right or wrong you are.
I suspect... I will not be as right as I was with the wards, but let's find out.
Next time.
On Inchworm.
Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildbow. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.
Are you still recording? Yes! I feel all powerful.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.